Hey guys, Liana here. Playing, well, not really playing, I'm in the collection with a K in Mortal Kombat. It's Tatas Tuesday, and Cassie Cage has Tatas, and quite some Tatas they are. They actually look kind of on the smallish side in this photo. Do not be fooled. It's the same photo, if you notice. Yeah, that's a nice reuse there, Mortal Kombat. Yeah. So, there was a lot of speculation about the way the female characters are going to be depicted in this game before the game came out, and a lot of it centered around the comments pre-launch. They were going to make the female characters look more realistic, and that upset a lot of people because realistic in a lot of people's minds just means, you know, less curvy. And the major changes, the major change is Tanya in this game. She's not a playable character, so she's not in this character viewer menu. But Tanya got a lot less ethnic in this game, and I'm not sure why. I assume there is a plot reason, because there seems to be a plot reason for a lot of the character look decisions. But the big thing was Kitana and Melina. Apparently there was a famine in Edenia because suddenly they lost a lot of their curves. Now, was this disappointing for me at first? Sure. I mean, okay, Kitana's still pretty good looking. This isn't how she looks in game, though. To avoid spoilers, the interesting thing about Mortal Kombat 10 or Mortal Kombat X, or whatever you want to call it, is that Melina is the primary character of importance for this game. And I think what they did is they redesigned the characters to look appropriate for Melina's role in the story. The way she looks suits her, because she's sort of sneaky, high octane, burns real hot character, and she's less of somebody's lap decoration in this game than ever before. She actually has a purpose. She has a drive, and I think it's pretty cool. The other thing that's kind of weird is Sonya Blade apparently got... It's hard to see because of the way they dress her. It's possible she looks exactly the same and she's just actually dressed like a special forces agent for a change. But she looks sort of reduced from Mortal Kombat 9, and yet her daughter got her boobs. I'm not quite sure why they didn't keep families consistent, because you see a similar inconsistency between Sindel, who is in the game, she's just not playable, and Kitana and Melina. So, and Melina you can kind of get away with, yeah, okay, she's a clone, it's not going to be, exact. But I think that the redesigns are made up for in the new female characters, like Jackie Briggs is a great one. The thing I like about, and I'm going to do a more overall diversity video with Mortal Kombat on another day. Tuesdays are specifically for women's stuff. That's why it's Tatas Tuesday. So don't worry, I'm not leaving out the men. I'm just not dealing with it now because this video would be an hour long, okay? And I'm trying to keep them shorter so more people have the time to watch them. So we've got, Jackie Briggs, who is a significantly different character personality-wise from Cassie Cage. If you notice by the name, Jackie Briggs is, Jax's daughter. And there's a neat little father-daughter relationship here. There's an interesting little mother-daughter relationship here. You'll notice if you scroll down to Sonya, the thing I loved about Sonya's character is that she didn't take to motherhood. And that's something you very rarely see with heroic female characters. That's usually seen as, an insurmountable character defect. How could a woman not want to be a mother? Well, I think she wanted to be a mother. She just has emotional issues. Gee, I wonder why. And she wasn't cut out for being a mom. Johnny Cage on the other hand, was apparently a really great dad, which is awesome to see. That made me really happy. I mean, the evolution in Johnny Cage. Okay, another time. I promised I'd stay on topic. So, the interesting thing in this game, like I said, it's not just that we have diversity in that, you know, Kitana and Melina kind of don't count because they're from Edenia. They're not human. So if we look at human diversity, but I mean, the cool thing is I would have liked to see an Asian female character, but that's just my nitpick. We got Farrah Tor here, who is just, this is an interesting take on a tank. Now, first of all, Tor is fast. He's not like one of those slow, sort of slow to get going, but packs a wallop. That's Kotal Khan in this game. He's much slower to get going. Tor is freaking quick, but Farrah up top there is they say childlike. To me, this is a riff on the Big Daddy Little Sister thing that we got going on in games, and I think the only reason they don't say she's a kid is because people would jump all over them for, you are committing violence against children. But all of her moves are playtime type things, so they're going there, and that's okay because it's Mortal Kombat. And then there's Devora, who again, she's a bug woman, so we really can't count her, but we can't count her in terms of racial diversity or real world representation. But what we do have here is radically different personalities in the various women, and that is what I like. Cassie Cage has, I normally don't like these insecure leaders character. They made Cassie make total sense. When your mom is Sonya Blade and your dad is Johnny Cage, you're going to have a lot to live up to, and you're gonna have some imposter syndrome. So I think that was awesome. Devora is, I'm not gonna talk too much about Devora because it would all be spoilers, but she is obviously a villain. And it's cool that in Mortal Kombat we get both heroes and villains, because the nice thing about a game set in a place like Outworld, where everything is based on, honor codes and fighting, is we eliminate the strong female character issue, because everyone is sort of assumed to be strong. None of the playable characters are going to be victims because they have to hold their own in a fight. Right? So we have Devora, we have Farrah Tor, who I would consider these guys more of like what D&D would call a chaotic neutral. They're allied with Kotal Khan, and the cool thing is there's no like hard up heroes and villains in this game as well. There are factions. So you got, Quan Chi and the dudes who are clearly bad. I mean, Chinook's faction is clearly bad, or Chinook. I can't pronounce his name right ever. But the Kotal Khan's faction is, they're not the protagonists of the story, and they are a form of kind of antagonist, but I wouldn't go so far to say they're de facto evil. And I thought that was cool. Jackie Briggs doesn't have the insecurity issues that Cassie does, but she's got her own stuff going on. She's dealing with the fact that her father was crazy overprotective because he was a revenant. And if there's ever been a good reason to throw in that whole overprotective father cliche, being a revenant is a pretty good reason. It actually makes sense. I'll give the writers total credit on this game. They thought this stuff out. As silly as it is, and as over the top as it is, they thought this stuff out. And Johnny Cage's redesign, that's pretty cool. You can see they kept him the same, but they aged him nicely. I like that. And I like to see characters age. Kitana is sort of a non-entity in this game. I think they put her in because she's a fan favorite. You gotta sort of have Kitana in a Mortal Kombat game. But she's really in the background in the story. Which was a little personally disappointing for me, but some of the other characters totally made up for it. Loving this guy, but we're not talking about him today. And you can sort of see, yeah, that's Kitana, but whoa, they took some serious time on Melina. And as I was saying before, what I like about Melina in Mortal Kombat X is they gave her something to do, something meaningful. She is a driver of the story. I've been a big fan of Melina since Mortal Kombat 2, just because of the whole. She was one of the first sort of quote unquote ugly female characters I'd ever experienced in video games. And no, she's not ugly until she takes off her mask. Yes, she's got butterface. Don't be offended. It's a joke. You know, that whole thing, everything's good, butterface. Merlina is a butterface character, but they sort of changed that so, like, you can look at her even now without her face revealed. She's crazy. She's like a rageaholic and nuts. So they really foregrounded Melina and really made her a critical character, which is quite cool, and in a way that absolutely made sense if you're reading the story. If you don't play the game is awesome. And Quan Chi is sort of, yes, I know he's not female, but Mortal Kombat, going back to DC versus Mortal Kombat, the writers have really set up the evil sorcerer as a foil for the girl power in the games. You know, right back to DC versus MK when they have Wonder Woman fighting Shang Tsung. If you know anything about Shang Tsung and you know anything about Wonder Woman, that makes total sense. But Quan Chi serves as a literal punching bag in that way in this game as well. And it's sort of interesting that they step away from the, you know, the quote unquote girl fight angle that so many cheeseball movies do, and actually pit female characters against villains with some scary factor, right? We're not looking at them as, you know, we're not looking at women as, oh, women fight women because we want to have a girl power movie. And we're not treating them as victims in this game of insurmountable odds, which happens a lot when you have male villains in these games. You know they're gonna win going in, so the world doesn't end. It's just really interesting to see how they get there. And, you know, despite Sonya's emotional issues, which are a major subplot of this game, she does come through for her family when it matters. Sonya has become an exceptionally complex character. After quite a lot of time, I mean, she's been in this game series from the beginning, but we didn't really know much about her until we sort of started getting into the interpersonal dynamics in the games in Mortal Kombat 9 because it had a meaningful story. But she was sort of for a long time the sort of bland special ops, she's the chick character. They've really taken her away from that quiet phone. And that's really cool, and it's just good to see, you know, a 50-year-old woman in a video game doing something active and still being badass and at times terrifying. Stop it, phone. So, phone rings usually means I'm going to rap, and I think I've sort of summed that up. I think what I'll say sort of in closing, so to speak, is I know a lot of people are not going to give Mortal Kombat any, you know, social relevance or diversity or, you know, heaven forbid, social justice points because it is so violent. But if you look at human history is violent, and they draw from a lot of those. If you'll notice, we have, you know, evocative of the Old West, which was what a lot of gunfights. You know, we have evocative of the, well, a lot of people say Aztec, but it was really the Toltecs that were crazy violent. But, you know, they invoke not just, you know, Western action movies now and Eastern martial arts movies, but they're invoking some of the bloodiest periods and cultures in human history, and I think that's super cool. And then there's just Kano, who is an asshole. So it's quite cool, and I'll get more into this in the diversity thing, but from you know, a representational perspective, and yeah, okay, the main family and it is still white and blonde, yes, but, you know, okay, I'm not gonna back away from that. Okay, if you want to see non-white protagonists, the thing is they're not front and center the whole time. If you know the way the Mortal Kombat story works, characters take turns, so you get to play. Not all of the characters that are playable in the tournament version, but you get to play a lot of them. So you know, it does, like, yes, you get to play Cassie, you get to play Devora. You don't get to play Ferrator, which I was sort of bummed about. You don't get to play as Kitana. Do you get to play as, well, I don't remember if you get to play as Melina. And you do get to play as Sonya for sure. So, and then Sindel and Tanya, as I said, are both in the game. They're sort of there if you know who they are. Otherwise, there's some holdover from the Mortal Kombat 9 storyline, so it'll make sense that way. Otherwise, you know, look it up on a wiki or kind of don't worry about it for the time being. They're important characters. And you get a bit of Sindel stuff in her trash talk dialogue before matches. But I hope that people who are concerned about diversity in games and portrayal of women in games give Mortal Kombat X a shot despite the violence, because they really aren't the same issues. We get into this trap of equating non-violence and portrayals of women, and they're really not the same thing. And I know a lot of people like to equate that because we see the feminine as sort of the peace and love and harmony gender. And I don't like doing that because that's dealing with the feminine as an abstract gender concept and not women as individual characters. And when you're coming at it from, you know, an art analysis perspective, which is analysis of plot, character design, etc., in video games, gameplay, etc., it's not the same as examining the feminine from a holistic philosophical perspective, you know, that whole idea of feminine energy. Mortal Kombat is not a game of feminine energy. Mortal Kombat is a game of aggression and blood and all that stuff. And I think that women artistically should be allowed to be part of that without being the chick, right? And I do like the fact that they have Farah in there, who is not traditionally any, even remotely, unless there's something wrong with you, sex appeal thing going on there. Because that's important too, to have women involved. I would have liked Tor to have been female as well, just because I love female tanks personally. But that's just a thing. Maybe a developer will see this, maybe not. Because I'm saying nice things about the game, maybe they'll go, okay, we can go that little bit more, because people are appreciating what we're doing so far. That's my hope. But yeah, I mean, okay, Devora's kind of conventionally attractive, but they mess with you that way as well. I mean, I don't think anybody having played the campaign storyline is going to go, Devora's hot, because Devora's terrifying. I guess they can be both. But Jackie Briggs, very likable character. Cassie Cage, very likable character. All the characters are kind of likable, let's face it. But they all fulfill their purpose in the story. And that is what is the most awesome. There's no moment that it's like, here's the girl. It's all interwoven and multi-generational, and I'd really like this game to get some cred for what they have done with a fairly limited, it's a plot-driven story. It's a plot and gameplay-driven story. And so some of the characterizations of the characters come out as you play them, which is kind of neat. I found, especially in Sub-Zero, hold that for tomorrow, stick to the female characters. The way the characters play does align with their personalities. Cassie Cage goes for the nether realms a lot in her moves. Jackie Briggs plays surprisingly, she doesn't play quite like Jax, but she's definitely evocative of Jax. She packs a wallop. And I like the fact that there's some female characters that really hit hard and getting close and grapple, because you know normally the girl in a game is a quicker, weaker character, and you have to nail those combos and get in there that way. You can't, rely on a few big hits like you can the tank characters. But, they mix it up more. I'm not going to say that any of them are super slow, but there is variety in gameplay between the female characters, and that the fighting game genre is getting better and better at that. And that really makes me happy, because if you're somebody who wants to play as a female character, but you still want to be tanky, like you want to punch somebody and have, an eighth of their health gauge drop, you have that option. And Jackie Briggs is pretty well endowed too. You just can't see it because she's wearing body armor, which makes sense because she's special forces fighting magic. I would come armored to the freaking teeth. So it's good to see that. So good job, Mortal Kombat. Just that one thing that I'd like more. I mean, I could go on what I personally like more, but that's my personal opinion. That's not an analytical perspective. And maybe I need to start doing more of that, but I want to sort of set a baseline in a game. I want to be objective before I start saying, I would like this and I would like this, because who the hell cares what I want? This is a game that millions of people are going to play. Game balance matters, the overall artistic vision for the game, the plot, making the plot work and making the characters work together matter more than satisfying my personal checklist of the things I like to see because they're personally validating. You know what I mean? So, are there characters I would have liked to see back? Sure. I would have liked to see Sindel and Kitana be more a part of the plot. The story was sort of, it was a complete story, but it was more of like a comic book art. And if they release DLC that is a continuation of the story, or the story told from the point of view of some of the bad guys, I would buy that and I would play that in a heartbeat. I'm not kidding. Because I want more, but that's not a bad thing. Because this game sold very well. We know we're going to get another Mortal Kombat story. And they have left a story open. They don't have to start from scratch and go, oh man, what are we going to do now? They've got a second act that they can go to and allow sort of that other half of the characters to shine there. So overall, it's a really good job. It was really enjoyable. I didn't feel anything insulted my intelligence. And the violence is its own odd kind of equality too. Oh, you're snapping women's necks, you're cutting off heads. Well, yeah, but that's a Mortal Kombat game. What are they doing here? They're, Jackie was in I forget which battle they keep mentioning, but she was like in Iraq and Afghanistan and all that stuff. Like her and Cassie, they're hardened fighters. And too often people go, oh, it's violent, it can't be feminist. Well, that's saying that women can't be fighters, and that's not... You're talking out both sides of your mouth here. You can't say that women can be anything they want to be, and that women have to be allowed to be diverse, and then limit the way female characters are portrayed because it offends your anti-war agenda. And that's my own personal stuff aside. Nobody likes war. Some people like depictions of war in the movies, but nobody likes real life war. I think that we have to be prepared for women to go out there and get hurt and lose and fail and be flawed to make the characters interesting enough for people to relate to them. Because nobody can relate to a character who is either destined to fail. Nobody wants to back a loser. Unless there's like a moral victory that comes out of the physical loss, or they have to be flawed enough but still come out on top. There has to be a win to make people on a large scale want to back and want to root for these characters. So that's my little bit. Isn't that it? I thought that was cute. It's silly as all crap, but it's a cute alternate outfit. With the hair. I didn't even realize her bangs were like gelled back until that. Kind of like it. It's silly, but it's a little bit of that old Mortal Kombat with the spare midriff, but at the same time, she's wearing a hoodie. Anyway, good job, Nether Realms. Looking forward to what you do next.